Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. With heartfelt pleasure and honor, I open this webinar completely devoted to the Association of Italian Canadian Writers. The program is the first occasion of our program completely conceived by the Italian Cultural Institute of Montreal and the Association of Italian Canadian Writers. This event, as you can imagine, is completely supported by our Consulate General and the Embassy of Italy in Canada. This step is another activity of our long-standing collaboration. A collaboration between the Institute and the Association of Italian and Canadian writers. That's the reason because I'm very, very happy to start this event. And we hope to continue to promote general speaking culture. The program was inspired, as you can imagine, by two fundamental ideas. Firstly, sharing culture, and secondly, the integration of competencies and specialization as well. I'm very happy to invite Anna Foschi Ciampolini, who is a short story writer, is a journalist and translator. Anna is a co-founder of the association and two-time president of the same association. Anna now is the member of the editorial board of the association, and at the same time the newsletter committee of the association's executive. Anna, take the floor and start our webinar session.
Thank you, Francesco. And welcome everyone. Before starting, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that I am on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Squamish and Musqueam people in Vancouver. Our association is acknowledging the nations who care for the land across our country. And thank you, Francesco, for having us. This is a great opportunity for our association. We really appreciate the possibility of working with the Institute. Our Vice President, Delia De Santis, and I are co-hosting the first webinar of this series. Today, the first segment will be dedicated to showcase the activity and the history of our associations. The second segment celebrates the winners of the first Venera Fazio Poetry Contest. This is an annual event dedicated to the memory of Venera Fazio, an outstanding member of our association, past president and a huge, great volunteer that really advanced our association over the years. At the end of each segment, there will be time for some questions and answers. Please feel free to send them in writing using the chat, the question and answers icon at the bottom. And we cannot go on forever. We have a limited time, but we'll do our best to answer. I'm happy to introduce our two first guest speakers, Delia De Santis and Dr. Joseph Pivato. They will talk about the association history and the Venera Fazio contest. Delia De Santis is the author of the collection Fast Forward, and Other Stories. She's widely published in literary magazines and has co-edited several anthologies. A longtime member of the association's executive, Delia is presently the vice president. Joseph Pivato is Professor Emeritus of Literary Studies at Athabasca University, where he taught courses in comparative literature that included Italian-Canadian authors. His Master of Art and PhD are in comparative literature. He was born in Italy. In 1985, he edited Contrasts, Comparative Essays on Italian-Canadian Writing, the first critical analysis of this emerging literature. He has published Echo, Essays on Other Literatures in 1994, the Anthology of Italian-Canadian Writing in 1998, and books on George Eliot Clark, Sheila Watson, Mary Di Michele, Caterina Edwards, Frank Paci, Pier Giorgio Di Cicco, and other authors. He's a founding president of the Association of Italian-Canadian Writers, starting in 1986. My first question is for Delia De Santis. Delia, if you could define our association goals and vision in a few words, what would you highlight?
Thank you, Anna. It's my pleasure to be here and talk about the association. It's one organization that I have in my heart at all times. I would say the association's ongoing goal is to promote the members and their creative works, to bring visibility to our writers and other artists by organizing activities and readings, etc. We're always trying to find ways and venues to feature the work of our members. Our biennial conference in Canada, and quite often in Italy, mostly affiliated with a university, includes the presentation of creative and academic material. And we collect all the proceedings and make sure they get published. We also take part in the Bloom Metropolis Book Festival and the Librissimi, Italian Festival of Books. The Books and Biscotti series really give great opportunity to the members, our writers, for launching their books and for doing readings and promoting themselves. This year we started, of course, as you said, Anna, the Venera Fazio Poetry Contest, and of course we'll continue that every year. And the other thing that has happened at last is we're finally able to have an up-to-date website. I guess websites are expensive, so it's the best medium featuring members and association books and news of the association. Please be sure to check it out at AICW.ca. We also have the Facebook page, and we post writing or links to authors' published material, especially for Poetry Month, Heritage Month, and Prose Month. And by posting the authors' pictures along with their submission, it really helps us to get to know each other, because we're sort of scattered all over the country and some in Europe and other places. We also promote on Twitter. And basically, I can say that we do our best to take advantage of free social media. And also, I would like to stress that we are dedicating ourselves to recruiting new members, which is very important, especially younger ones. They will be able to generate new ideas, I'm sure. I know they're especially apt in the new ways of virtual group interaction, which some of us older ones are not. More than ever, and that's important, more than ever now that since COVID-19 really, because it's the new way of doing things. And of course, new members are always welcome. If anyone wants information, we can be reached at info@aicw.ca anytime. That's it.
Thank you. And definitely, we are welcoming new members. We need new blood, and that goes for every association, not just us. Delia, I just wanted to touch upon a subject that you briefly mentioned, and it's a very important and not a very happy one, unfortunately. Just the recent, we are going through tough times, and this pandemic has affected a lot of lives in the whole world. And not only, but every aspect of our society and our lives has been touched, even for us, writers or other artists. We had to reinvent basically other ways to reach out to the audience because physical gatherings have been not possible for, and maybe they won't be possible for a time. So I wanted to ask you, how has our association responded to the COVID-19 challenge?
Well, you know, we kept busy actually in an old way for a while because we assumed the well-known Bersani Prize, which the Italian Cultural Center of Vancouver was unfortunately forced to give up because of issues due to the pandemic. And then this year we'll be continuing to set up monthly webinars with our generous host, the Italian Cultural Institute of Montreal. The topics of the webinars will focus on various aspects of writing and the writing business, such as publishing. In fact, the July webinar will be made up of a panel of publishers who have published our members' books. It should be interesting. Then at the same time, the AICW will also be getting ready to host a webinar in July with a publisher who will give his expertise and talk about the famous query letter that most writers have to do and most writers dread doing, really. So expect much needed information, valuable pointers from this publisher. So that will be good. Actually, the AICW is hoping to provide more webinars or a series of virtual events in the future. For example, like the Shut Up and Write on Zoom, that quite a few of our writers are in virtual attendance already every Thursday. And last but not least, we're always brainstorming for new ideas. So I urge members to stay informed, read the emails we send out to you, don't bypass them, check out our newsletter. It's truly a mirror of members' achievements, and it shows what a vibrant group we are. And for everyone, do check out the website, AICW website, for books and articles and other good things, such as members' bios and profiles. Just Google AICW.ca, ACA, the Association of Italian Canadian Writers.
Thank you, Delia, for the wealth of information that you gave us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And now I would like to invite Dr. Joseph Pivato to talk about the beginnings and the history of the association. Joe, please.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you to Dr. Francesco D'Arelli and the Italian Cultural Institute for hosting this, this virtual meeting. I will deal with a brief history of the association because it's 35 years. I'm not going to go through all the years. The Association of Italian Canadian Writers was founded in Vancouver in September 1986 during a conference of these writers. The conference organizers were Anna Foschi, Dino Mini, and Jenny Gunn. The writers who came to Vancouver that September were a very diverse group. They published in English, in French, and in Italian. Nevertheless, they did get along. Late one evening, some of these writers got together at a local tavern and proposed the creation of an association. The next morning, after an hour's discussion, it was agreed to establish an Association of Italian Canadian Writers, with the hyphen in the title. From the beginning, it was conceived as a trilingual association with members from across Canada. And in fact, the name of the association also has a French and Italian version, l'Association des Écrivains Italo-Canadiens and Associazione Scrittori Critici Italo-Canadesi. In that 1986 meeting, I was chosen as the first president of the association. And I also became the editor of the newsletter from 1986 to 96 and 2003 to 2006. The newsletter masthead always had all three languages in the association title, each of them with their hyphen. And we tried to include contributions in all three languages. We wanted to maintain the distinctive Italian identity with all the regional variations and dialects. Most of the first members, the people from my generation, spoke English and Italian or French and Italian, or all three. Each issue of the newsletter included a list of recent publications. And these publications were in all three languages. Whenever students inquired, or other curious people inquired about these Italian Canadian writers, it was simply, I simply mailed out 2 or 3 or 4 issues of the newsletter with the list of book titles at the end. And so people got an idea of what we were doing. The collected 93 issues of these newsletters constitute the 35-year history of the association, as Delia explained. By the year 2000, there were over 100 active Italian Canadian writers in Canada, and they had published about 1,000 books. I can verify this because many of them used to send me copies. So I have still probably the best collection of Italian Canadian writers in Canada so far. This is a critical mass that cannot be ignored by either English Canada or Quebec. The Association of Italian Canadian Writers envisions holding a meeting every 2 years and in different cities of Canada. And we have done so. We were hosted in Montreal by this Italian Cultural Institute in May 2014. We have also held meetings in 3 Italian cities, Udine, Friuli in 2004, Atri, Teramo in 2010, and Padula, Salerno in 2016. And we plan to be in Torino, Italy in October 2021. With the help of Guernica Editions and Antonio D'Alfonso, we were able to publish a number of books studying our writing. And one of the first ones is the one that Delia mentioned, Contrast, which I edited in 85. But we now have many literary books of criticism that deal with Italian Canadian writers, including some of our proceedings from conferences. In Canada, in order to receive recognition, you must be accepted in the academy, in the university. Books must appear in literature courses. Graduate students must write MAs and PhD theses on Italian Canadian authors. We have moved in this direction in some small ways, but not really enough. One of our major problems is that we no longer have members with university positions who can promote our books. Many have retired and some have died. From the beginning, the Association of Italian Canadian Writers was seen as a support group for these writers. One of the things that we did in those early days was publish book reviews of each other's works. As Antonio D'Alfonso said, we have to criticize ourselves. Nobody else was doing it for us. And we should continue to do this now. And we can do this now on various online book sites. The early publications often dealt with themes of immigration, dual identity, language problems, discrimination, generational conflict. These themes were sometimes dismissed by the mainstream literary critics, by the academics. Now, this has changed. Given the movement of the Black Lives Matter, we can see that the questions of ethnic identity, bias, racism are all very important issues that need to be discussed by many members of mainstream society. Italian Canadian writers were some of the first authors to explore these problems. So we made a little history. Thank you for listening. I'm willing to take any kinds of questions.
Hi, my microphone went off for a second. Well, those glitches do happen. Bear with us. Wanted to thank you, Joe Pivato. Also, I have to tell you, Joe, mi hai fatto sentire giovane per un momento when you talked about the beginnings of the association. Yes. And
we were all young then.
I was just arrived from Italy at that time, and it was like such a wonderful situation, possibility for me to meet people of your calibers and all the other writers that came to that first conference, and we stayed together for all those years. So thank you very much again. That was wonderful. This is concluding the first part of our webinar, and we still have some time to take some questions and answers. And so if you have, if there is anyone from the audience, you're ready. Okay. Okay. So I think we can take it from there. And one more time, I want to say thank you to Delia De Santis and to Joe Pivato. And then now give the floor to Delia De Santis to get into the second part of our webinar, the one that is dedicated to the Venera Fazio Poetry Contest. Please, Delia.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, so as Anna said, I'm Delia De Santis, and I'm happy to host the second session of the webinar. We will be bringing you the results of the 2020 Venera Literary Poetry Contest. Why a literary contest named for Venera Fazio, you might ask? I will share some significant reflection on the late Venera Fazio, who was my best friend. There were three things Venera was totally dedicated to, and they were her family, the AICW, and her writing. But I know that quite often the AICW got much more attention than her own creative work. She published one book of poetry, and I'm sure if she had lived a good long life, she would have had many more poems to share with us. We were best friends, of course, and colleague, and we both worked on 5 anthologies together and enjoyed organizing many literary events in our town of Sarnia, Ontario. We could have been twins, really. That's how well we knew each other. I knew that the association business was always on her mind, either transparently or lurking in the background. And she always had ideas on the ferment. She understood the significant value of our writers' organization and felt that this group was vital in influencing new Italian Canadian writers and in showcasing their work, and that it also advanced the position of writers whose work was already being recognized. She volunteered tirelessly as a regular member, but most often on the executive. But she was also a meticulous editor and a great organizer to the benefit of many people. Venera was a selfless person with a gentle character, and a lot of people admired her. The association is pleased to honor her memory. And now on to the contest results. But first, I would like to thank the sponsor for the contest, Dwayne O'Neill, and also the reading committee, Marisa De Franceschi and Gianna Patriarca. And of course, the final judge, Caterina Edwards, who was doing us the honor of joining us to give her valuable comments about winning poems. and I will read Caterina's bio. Caterina Edwards has published 6 books, each in a different genre. Her work of creative nonfiction, Finding Rosa, A Mother with Alzheimer's, A Daughter in Search of the Past, received 2 major awards, rave reviews, and much critical attention. The Italian edition will be published this October. The Sicilian Wife, a literary noir, was named a Best Book of the Year in 2015 by the National Post, who described it as a feminist answer to The Godfather. The French translation came out last fall. And in 2016, Caterina was inducted into the City of Edmonton Cultural Hall of Fame. Caterina, would you like to comment on the winning first prize, please?
Well, thank you for the introduction, and thank you to Dr. Francesco D'Arelli for organizing this webinar. I know all of this takes a lot of work and pulling things together. I was really pleased to be asked to be the judge of this competition, partly because, well, mostly because actually, like everyone else, I had a great respect for Venera and for her work. So it certainly, I was certainly motivated to do this. And of course, my reactions, or my, I tried to be as objective as I could, but of course my decisions are subjective. And I did appreciate some of the guidance that I got from the 2 pre-readers, Marisa and also Gianna. So I think that helped too. So I'll start. Do you want to announce the first prize, or should I just go ahead and?
Well, the first prize went to Lynn Tate of Sarnia, Ontario. And I'll let you read the title, or Lynn will read her title.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Clandestine photo shoot inside Holmes Foundry, Sarnia, Ontario. Now, then these are my comments. The poem exposes a darkness, a noxious history, through a sequence of sensory details and precise images of a deserted and soon to be demolished foundry. In the illumination of the physical ruin, the poet evokes the ruined lives of both the recent squatters and the long gone poisoned workers. The poem has it all. It is moving, thought-provoking, and with its measured tone and artful composition, beautiful.
Thank you, Caterina. And now, Lynn, I will read her bio first, and then Lynn will read. Okay. Lynn Tate is an award-winning poet, photographer, and residing in Sarnia, Ontario, Canada. Her poems have appeared in Windsor Review, Riel, Quill's Canadian Poetry Magazine, Feather Tales, The Tower Society, Contemporary Verse 2, Vellum, Free Fall Literary Magazine, Literary Review of Canada, and in over 100 Canadian and American anthologies. As well published a chapbook, Breaking Away, co-authored a book, Encompass 1, and is working on 2 full-length poetry manuscripts. Her photos and digital art have appeared on numerous book covers, including Discovering Voice, Italian-Canadian Women's Writing, and she is a member of the League of Canadian Poets and the Ontario Poetry Society. Lynn, to you. Oh, can't hear you.
Oh, we can't hear her. Can she see us?
Yeah, she can see.
Here? You can hear me?
Now we can. Just,
Oh, okay.
okay.
So I'd like to thank the Association of Italian Canadian Writers and for this honor. And I'll start right now with the poem. But first, I have an epigraph that goes with it by Gregory McConkie, The Valley Review, June 2nd, 2019. And it says, among the workers exposed for 2 years or more, there was a 600% increase in lung cancer and 11,000% increase in respiratory disease and 5 cases of mesothelioma. And also women who washed their husband's clothes also suffered health effects due to inhalation. So clandestine photo shoot inside Holmes Foundry, Sarnia, Ontario. Cameras click and whirl. It's startling on its own, like disturbed wing flaps collecting air, quick movements, lapping deserted spaces. Ink spray cans of fallen artists, empty of color now, but what they were, hissing hues of mist applied like the drama of a thrown drink dripping down. Off-colored remarks smacked on poisoned walls, tagged for demolition. There is beauty in letters, a history of tints in distress, something to say in the dark. It is almost always dark here. Even humor permeates these ruins, unintentional art, a single chair bathed in dusty patches of sunlight, painted office signs sprayed with tongue-in-cheek, the spit of sarcasm drenched in green. The empty echo of no sound is too unnerving, scattered scraps from vagrants, addicts who have called this place home. This vacancy cradles a discord of dead voices, whirl of machines, the heat of lethal labor, and yell of ghost workers, bark and yell of ghost workers. Reek of sweat and metal gone. The walls withstand a noxious history. Venomous worms unseen settle into lungs and lives. Grime no one can wash off or demolish. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lynn. It's been a wonderful moment listening. It really stirs emotions. Like most of the poems that we received, they were all so beautiful. I guess that Caterina had a very hard time.
It was hard. It was hard.
It was a very difficult choice, but we have to make a choice. Maybe, Caterina, do you want?
I can go ahead and
exactly. Do you want to introduce this second prize?
Well, the second prize is Carole Giangrande. I unfortunately don't have her bio here. And the poem is When the Plague is Done with Us. So maybe if I read the reason why I chose it, and by that time Delia can read the bio.
Okay,
the poem
gotcha.
Okay. When the plague is done with us. The poem takes a fresh approach to a universal, yet for almost all of us, a previously unknown experience. The poet has mastered all the necessary elements of poetry: syntax, prosody, structure, and appeal to the senses, and uses them to challenge the reader to contemplate who we were before the pandemic and what we will be afterwards.
Thank you, Caterina. And Carole, I forgot to unmute my button. So, but you're the second prize winner, and I will read your bio. And of course, congratulate you. Carole Giangrande's poetry has appeared in the New Quarterly, Grain, Prairie Fire, Spiritus, Queen's Quarterly, Braided Way, and People, Places, Passages, an anthology of a Canadian writing, Longbridge 2018. She's the author of 10 adult books and 1 children's book. Do I have to go to sleep? Do I have to go to sleep? Yes, 2020. Her novel, All That Is Solid Melts into Air, won the 2018 Independent Publishers Gold Medal for Literary Fiction. Her most recent novel, The Tender Birds, was awarded the 2019 Silver Epi in the same category. Carole, would you like to read your poem? Where's Carole? Where's Carole?
We just lost it.
We've lost Carole. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
It is unmuted.
Okay, now it is.
Okay.
Okay, could you read your poem, please?
Yes. I'm sorry about this. And I would like to thank Caterina for such kind comments. I really appreciated your judgment.
That's great.
So it's called When the Plague is Done with Us. How will we feel when the plague is done with us? Will we remember dawn on the creek, staccato woodpecker's tap, March tilting into spring? What will we make of those solitary walks under the grave indifference of sky? Day's consolation, careful distance, brittle thoughts? Will we see shards, the broken truth that if we survived, it would be through the grace of nothing understood, humbled by time and grief, comforted by daybreak, birdsong, calm at evening's rest? When the plague is done with us, will we turn to each other, regretting the loss of what we were before it began? Shards swept away in the pale gleam of sunlight? Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Carole, for reading that. And now we will go on to the third prize. And it's Anna Ciardullo Villapiana. I think I pronounced that right this time. Okay, would Caterina like to give her comments on Anna's poem?
Well, it was certainly a pleasure to read this poem in Italian, to come across, I think Anna submitted several poems in Italian, and it was a real pleasure to read the Italian poems too. Ti bacerò domani. This is an accomplished poem that commands the reader's attention, in particular by its audacious central metaphor that links the Passion of Christ to the suffering of the world from the coronavirus and his resurrection to our eventual redemption.
Thank you, Caterina. That's, and now I will I'll give you Anna's bio before she reads her poem. Anna Ciardullo Villapiana was born in Cosenza, Italy, in 1973. She graduated in 2000 at University of Calabria in the Faculty of Art with a modern literature degree. In 2003, she moved to Canada, where she started her career as translator and Italian language teacher. In 2007, she published her first collection of poems, Percorsi Interiori, Inner Paths, by Pandora Press. And later in 2015, Frammenti di Luce, Fragments of Light, also by Pandora Press. In 2018, she published her third volume of prose and poetry, Al di là del mare, Beyond the Sea. I Rumori dell'Anima Editions published it. Some of Anna's Ciardullo's poems have been published in several magazines and anthologies in Canada, Italy, and the US. Anna, would you like to read your poem?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Caterina, for your comment. So the poem is Ti bacerò domani. Vedo il mondo in ginocchio, sul suo capo una corona di spine. Non so se l'hanno intrecciata o è nata da sola, da un rovo ribelle. So che fa male. Vedo gocce di sudore sulla fronte di medici e infermieri, nei loro getsemani, in quell'orto in cui è proibito pregare. Dietro le maschere, rari sorrisi, solo suoni soffocati di rauchi respiri. Chi è salvo, chi muore, suda il medico, mentre gli apostoli dormono nelle loro case. Qualcuno grida, prova a svegliarli, ma Giuda ha già consegnato il mondo al flagello, una ferita dopo l'altra. La schiena si è tinta di rosso. Inizia il calvario. Chi grida, chi sputa, chi si lava le mani, chi soffre, chi cade, chi scappa, chi muore. Ma ecco Veronica ad asciugare il dolore e Giovanni che abbraccia Maria. Ecco i soldati che marciano in città vuote. Una voce sovrasta il silenzio. Ti perdono, tutto è compiuto. Oggi è la terra a tremare. Domani usciremo dalle nostre case per ungere il mondo. Ma troveremo il sudario vuoto. Sapremo che è risorto, lo vedremo brillare, bianco, al sole di primavera. Increduli, toccheremo le sue ferite. Le dita affonderanno nel vuoto. Non avremo paura. Ameremo la libertà. Sentiremo gli uccelli cantare in cielo e in terra vedremo gli ulivi. Domani. Ti bacerò domani.
Oh, that's beautiful. Ti bacerò domani. Thank you for reading that. And congratulations. I think I forgot to congratulate Lynn, but I think you know that I mean to congratulate all of you. And now we go on to the honorable mention. And guess what? We have Lynn Tate again, who won first prize and honorable mention. So I'm not sure, Caterina, do you have anything to?
I do have something. I had no idea who wrote what poems, and I really had no idea that this poem was written by the same person who wrote it. I really didn't guess. So, and it's called Early Mornings in the Barrios. And I've written, this poem is a delight. It transports us to the village. I felt as if I were in Playa del Coco, soaking in every detail. It has obviously been written by an accomplished and talented poet. That was mine.
Thank you. And I don't need to read your bio again, do I? No. Okay, would you like to read the honorable mention, Lynn, please?
Early mornings in the barrios, Playa del Coco, Costa Rica. And the epigraph is, it's almost dawn and the usual half miracles begin. Mary Oliver, morning at Blackwater. It begins when trees, prepared for bare root bursts of song and dance, shrug off their soil, sway harmoniously if the wind desires, air skimming solo artists, small ensembles, breeze bend through rhythms, hot jazz it, or opt for paler blues. Or in motionless expectation, await the rooster's territorial lament, earnest calls across roads and fence, rhythmic cackle of cockadoodles doing their best, standing their ground, shouting, yes, we are here. Drowned out now and then by gringo dogs, their job description overemphasized in suited unison. Ego dogs stretch out anywhere. Slothful head lifts acknowledge the presence of whomever and whatever. The drama ends there. Gated canine hysterics replaced by ecstatic squeals and screams. Children immersed in softer, silenced by local school bell revving up like an air raid siren. Through it all, cicadas throb against air, resemble thousands of tail-shaking rattlers rather than the wing rub of insect bodies dying for sex. But there are mornings amid the commotion, the rush of early wake-up. Howler monkeys begin a treetop cannon starting with the low notes rising, an earnest momentum amplified. Resounding rasps and power notes fill the air for miles, low rolling, then staccato, answered with a slow swell of chorus. Bass channels magnified across the vast expanse, they bellow in concert, then fall away, the whole recital of protest against the steady nonsense of dogs and roosters, their racket silenced only by rain. Thank you very much. And
thank you, Lynn.
To Anna and Carole also. Your poems are beautiful.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all of you. Wonderful poets. And I think we have a question from the audience. Okay. Oh, Carolyn Di Giovanni, hello. I don't have a camera, but I would like to ask the opinion of the others on the value of anthologies for preserving diverse examples of Italian, Canadian stories, poetry, and novels. Okay. Who would like to answer that one? I think it's yes, I think it's important to preserve our works in an anthology for sure, Caroline. You know, if we don't do it ourselves, who else is going to do it? So I think it's very important to put out anthologies with our work. Yes, very much so. Thank you. Don't know if we got another one or it's the same one.
If I may add, with anthologies, you get more diversity in terms of the authors, and if it's theme-based, then you get just many voices speaking on similar themes, but with a different voice to each.
That's great. Yes, I think that's you know, it's an important point there. And we've been doing quite a few anthologies, but I think we need to do more, and we need more editors.
That's right.
more people who will do the anthologies.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I think that I've often discovered other Italian Canadian writers through anthologies. You know, through the anthologies that well, Delia, you've done, and Joe has done a few. Well, a number of very important ones. So I wonder, and of course, so has Carolyn. She was one of the early people.
yes.
I mean, the first anthologies, I think it was called Voices in Italian Canadian.
And we are lucky to have had some of these anthologies, really, you know, because and they're the kind of books that you can go back to all the time and kind of freshen, you know, your memory of the authors and the kind of writing they were doing, and sometimes compare what was done years ago to what's being done today.
So I think maybe Joe should say something about anthologies.
Sure.
Yes.
Basically, the anthology was conceived by early Canadian literature promoters as texts for courses. And as I said, that's where we should be more active in getting our books on courses, used in courses, and people writing theses about them. And that's where you're going to get recognition. So far, you know, we've had lots of conferences, but we're basically, that's, you know, we're all in the same church. We're speaking to the converted. There's very few people from outside coming in. And of course, very few new members coming in. That's our problem. We have to reach out and you know, talk to other people outside. That's why, for example, at one of the conferences in Vancouver, we had the Asian writers, and one of the conferences in Toronto, we had the South Asian writers, you know, in dialogue with us. So that's the kind of thing we should be doing more of. So the anthologies are good for being included in courses. You know, they're easy. They're a teaching tool, a promotion tool for us. So that's one of the things we have to be looking for. That's why I talked about the fact that we have fewer and fewer members that are university teachers, and therefore they're not there to promote our books in the institution. You know, that's one of the problems we have.
I think
and of
there
course,
are quite a few.
Now, we're competing against all the other ethnic groups. Indigenous writers, the Indigenous literature in Canada is just exploding. It's all over the place. It's being reviewed on the CBC and all over the place. And also Black writers. So we're competing, you know, once there was nobody out there, no other ethnic writers, and now there's all kinds of other competition. So if people have to look at Indigenous writers who have been underrepresented, or Black writers, we have a very difficult competition in terms of getting into courses. Yeah,
and
we have to do that.
I think if we get our books into education in universities, we get royalties too. Something that
I don't know. I think a lot of university professors are not very good about paying their access. They just Xerox.
That's right.
You know, without thinking. Can I add something? This is kind of off the topic, but I can't. I just thought of it. You know, the Ukrainian Canadians have a prize that they've had for now under. That would be similar to the Bersani Prize. And I think it's a good thing that the Bersani Prize is coming under the association's head rather than just the Italian Center in Vancouver, because I think it gives us more, we can do more things with it. And this struck me when I looked at the page for the Ukrainian Prize. First of all, the prize for the Ukrainian one was $25,000. And I thought, well, that's typical, isn't it? It's very hard to get money out of you know, our Italian businessmen, I think, to support culture, whereas obviously there's some Ukrainian ones who are giving. And also they didn't just feature the winner, they had a long passage on each of the books that were nominated with pictures, and I thought they are promoting these books in a way, in a very effective way, I thought. So
well, we can learn from others, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I think now that the AICW has taken over the Bersani, I think that'll bring more stability to it and maybe open up possibilities about what can be done to promote.
I have one comment on that. Okay, one of my concerns is when it was being offered by the Italian Cultural Institute, it was outside the association.
Okay, yeah.
When it's inside the association, it looks like we're giving awards to ourselves. You know, it's like the Academy Awards. They're giving awards to themselves. You know, because it's the Academy voting for themselves. I mean, that's a big Academy. We're a small association, so that's the problem. So in other words, we're going to have to develop a way that the judges and the evaluators are not us. Because it's very difficult to evaluate us, right? I mean,
I don't.
How am I going to decide between Caterina Edwards and Mary Di Michele, right? I mean, and also I'm going to recognize their style, right? You can't hide their identity. So you're going to have to find some way of making it more external.
If I may say something about the Bersani, as a co-founder of the prize. The Bressani also, there was a period when the prize was open to writers, all writers in Canada. For a number of years, every writer could send their submissions, and it was not limited to Italian Canadian writers. The history of the Bressani is a little bit rocky in the sense that we had to review the goals and we had to review the rules a few times because it was established in 1986 to foster the expression of the Italian-Canadian immigrant experience. And that was the core goal and the first goal. And it was later, as I said, sort of open up to everyone. To be very blunt and very honest, we found that it was somehow difficult. Maybe I'm not diplomatic, very politically correct in saying this, but it was somehow difficult for our authors to compete with the very, very big names of the CanLit. Because when you have an entry, I don't want to name any names, but let's say by a most prominent Canadian writers that is published by the biggest and most important publishers in Canada and even internationally, we found that the original spirit of the prize that was to help, to encourage writers of Italian origin to produce was somehow very difficult to uphold. So in more recent times, we went back with the committee. I have been part of the Bressani committee for a number of years at the Italian Cultural Center in Vancouver. And we went back to the original purpose of the prize. Now, at the beginning of the year, I was told by the Italian Cultural Center that they no longer wanted to sponsor the prize. They were no longer interested for a series of reasons. And then COVID-19 came up, so it became impossible even to organize the 2020 editions. I have to say, I acted on an emotional sort of a very much emotional attachment that I had to the prize, and I proposed to the association executive if they wanted to consider organizing the Bressani. We as an association, of course, we cannot even dream of offering a large amount of money for the prize. We think it's more the prestige that would attract writers to send their entries. And we are facing a difficult task, of course, so it will take a few months before we are able to send out the call for submissions. I'm happy that the Bressani can continue to live. Again, selfishly, because I was so involved since the beginning with Dino Minni, with Joe Pivato, who gave us a lot of support and advice back in 1986, and Jenny and other writers. So I felt I had to do everything I could to continue this prize. I'm so grateful to the executive, to the association's executive, for accepting this big challenge. And with this, I'm done. I'm finished.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Okay. Anna, did you have any final?
Well,
oh, we have another question. Sorry.
Yes, there is another question. And also in the webinar chat, we have Carmelo Militano saying, very nice and well done. Before we go on, I think this is lifting up our spirits. I wanted to read it from the chat section. Very nice and well done. Thank you, Carmelo. Please.
And the second question here is, how many entries does the Bressani Prize usually get? How many entries?
Very much depends. I mean, if I may answer, it depends. And depends. It's a biennial prize. It was, and it's going to be a biennial prize. So it's that was one of our concerns, actually, because it fluctuates a lot. There were years where we were organizing the prize and there was quite a big number of entries. And there were years where we were concerned that we couldn't even continue to to organize and to deliver the prize because the entries were very few and you can't really award a prize when you have maybe 7 or 8 entries. So it's very hard to say, and that's one of the problems when a prize is so focused, in my opinion, so focused on a particular segment, a particular group of authors, Italian, Canadian authors. Again, with the Bressani, there are a lot of issues that I suppose we could explore over the years. I mean, nothing is written in stone, not with literary prize and not with anything else. Everything can change, everything can. So for the moment, maybe conservatively speaking, I think for the 2021 Bressani edition, we have so many organizational tasks to face. We'll stick to the original purpose. And we'll see in the future. I mean, it's very hard now to predict. What matters is to have, of course, a sufficient number of entries. Thank you, I'm done.
Yeah, can I just add something quickly? I think I can see your point, Joe, but a lot of the prizes that are given in Canada come from the associations. The Writers Guild of Alberta, it's the Writers Guild. The Saskatchewan one, I've been on various committees for the Saskatchewan Awards. I don't know what they do in Ontario or the Trillium. Even the Governor General's, it's 3 writers. I think you just have to make sure that at least one of the committee is not from the association. And I think we could also get a lot of entries. There are a lot more Italian Canadian writers that just don't happen to belong to the association and might not even know about the Bressani, right?
So it's a matter of getting the out there, the announcement out there, publicizing it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm hoping anyway, maybe.
I think also that maybe finding a way to attract a donor for a good prize would draw a lot of public attention to that prize.
Oh yes, that would be really good. We need someone on the association. Joe, how would you like to be to go out knocking on doors for prizes?
To be honest, it'd be better to find someone in a large, rich city like Toronto, which has all kinds of rich Italian developers. For example, the Mariano Elia Foundation, which supports the chair in York University. Those are the kind of organizations you can get them. For example, the Mariano Elia Association used to give us $5,000 for a number of years to run our conferences.
Yeah.
Mariano died, but I mean, they still have the foundation as run his son. So that's the kind of things you're going to have to approach. I mean, in Edmonton, there are not too many rich Italians in Edmonton that I would knock on the doors. That would be a very short trip.
Do you want me to tell you about Sarnia? Okay. But Anna, were you going to talk a little about the webinars, I believe, or something?
Yes, I think we are getting to the conclusion of today's webinar, today's event.
Yeah.
And first of all, I would like to thank our host, Francesco D'Arelli, the director of the Italian Cultural Institute. And I would like to thank our guest speakers, all of them, Joe and Delia, yourself, and all Caterina, and the winners. Thank you for joining us and for sharing the gift of your poetry and your inspiration. And the audience, of course, for following us. and
Special.
staying with us till the end. And now, the announcement.
And now I will just a short, just something short. Please visit our website at AICW.ca for the contest rules for the 2021 Venera Fazio Poetry Contest. It's never too soon to get your poems ready and send in. We welcome poems in on any topic in 3 languages, Italian, French, and English. So I hope we get lots of poetry for our second contest. And thank you to all the poets and thank you to Anna and Francesco and Caterina, Joseph, everyone. So it was great being together.
Thank you. Just wanted to announce the next webinar for the month of July, because this is a series that will continue for a few months till December 2021, hopefully even after that. But so next month, our next Association of Italian Canadian Writers will be coming once a month as a guest of the Italian Cultural Institute of Montreal. And the next webinar is going to be broadcasted to be accessible on July 28th at 5 p.m. Montreal time, Eastern time. And it will be, the webinar will be featuring a publishers panel. So stay with us, stay tuned. As for the Bressani Prize in 2021, I guess we have talked at length about this prize, and I can tell you that probably the call for submissions will be sent out in mid-2021. So start dusting off your keyboard and sharpening your pens and send us your books, novels, etc. Thank you very much for listening to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francesco.
Thank you. As you can imagine, to conclude is always a very hard work. Firstly, I wanted to express my gratitude to the Association of Italian Canadian Writers, and namely to the executive, to the editorial board, and finally the newsletter committee. Thanks a lot to all the participants, the panelists, and particularly Delia, Caterina Edwards, Anna Foschi, Joseph Pivato, and the 3 Venera Fazio Poetry winners. Believe me, I'm very, very happy because I think this is the first page of our book. And as I stressed in my introduction, this afternoon webinar is a remarkable example of what I said, the idea of sharing and integrating knowledge. I think all together we have to support the culture, because I think culture is the main human activities in all society worldwide. Take care is my final recommendation, and see you, as Anna said, on July 28th. Thank you, grazie tanto, buona serata e alla prossima.
Alla prossima.
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao.
Keep healthy, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.